Part 32. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bh Yaya 11U. Chapter 313. Sue's mother glared at Qingxing and called them, come on, I'll teach you how to sew. You are girls, you can't even know how to sew. After hearing this, Yaya stood there in a daze, unable to react. Qingxing jumped up all of a sudden. I don't want to study. I'm busy. I'm following my brother-in-law to read the account books. In a few days, the rice will be harvested in the mountains, and I have to go to the shop in the market town to help. Mother Su bared her teeth at her, you damn girl, look at your account book. It's not like mother won't let you look at it. A woman must be able to do this needlework. Otherwise, who are you going to ask to make clothes for you? I'll buy it and wear it. What? Sue's mother got angry when she heard this and grabbed her. Qingxing suddenly ran behind Su Qingyu. I don't want to study, I'm busy. Qingxing jumped and spun around in circles with Sue's mother. Mother Su put down the cloth and chased her. Gritting his teeth, you are a girl and you can't even do needlework. Who will marry you in the future? Qingxing retorted, who said you have to be able to do needlework to get married? My sister can't do it either, so why not be an official's wife? You damn girl, how dare you compete with your sister? Can you compare with your sister with your brains? If you have the skills of your sister, I will wake up in my dreams. I will do it to you behind your back every day. Clothes. Aren't I learning from my sister? Come here. I won't go. I won't learn. Su Qingyu was so dizzy by the two of them that she caught Qingxing in the end. Either I'll let you make a living doing needlework in the future, or I'll let you learn one more skill. You don't have to be proficient in embroidery, but you have to learn how to tailor, sew, and make clothes. I don't know how to embroider, but I know how to make clothes for myself and my family. I still know how to make clothes for myself and my family. Having too many skills does not overwhelm you. Learning more than one skill will only have advantages and no disadvantages. Su Qingyu advised. Sue's mother nodded repeatedly, that's right. Having many skills is not a burden. What's wrong with learning more skills? Qingxing always listened to Su Qingyu's words and nodded, that's okay. I don't want to learn embroidery. I just learn cutting and making clothes. Mother Su glared at her, you want to learn embroidery, but your mother can't teach you. How many of our farmers are proficient in embroidery? It would be great if you can cut the cloth and make it into clothes to cover yourself. If you can be more powerful and make it into a style that others will envy, that is your ability. Then I will create a style that others can envy, and let others follow my lead. Sue's mother hit her, you should learn how to hold scissors first, just talk big words. Snort. The mother and daughter would argue once or twice every day. Su Qingyu couldn't help but laugh. Then he pulled Yaya over, Yaya, can you also learn from grandma? After learning, you can make clothes for yourself and your younger brothers and sisters in the future, okay? Yaya is very sensible. When grandma first said it, she didn't react. After listening to it for a long time, she also wanted to learn. He nodded to Su Qingyu and said, okay. I learned how to make it for little brothers Iobeo and for the younger brothers and sisters in mother's belly. Su Qingyu touched her head, okay, you're so good. Qingxing was grabbing a piece of cloth and looking at it in her hand. When she heard this, she asked Yaya, aren't you going to make it for my aunt? Yaya looked at her and blinked her big eyes, Auntie, do it by yourself. I'll be the one for the children, and you, Auntie, will be the one for the adults. But there are so many adults and only 2 or 3 children. When Yaya heard this, she immediately turned her back and ignored her. Seeing that she was still teasing Yaya, Sue's mother slapped her, you're so useless. I still want to use your niece. Mom, really, she picked it up, right? Whenever the farming season is busy, Suking Neo is so busy that her feet never touch the ground. As soon as the early rice is harvested in Renzhou City, the late rice must be planted immediately. Then when the late rice outside is planted, the upland rice in the mountains will also be harvested. After the upland rice is harvested, winter wheat must be planted immediately. In addition to her being extremely busy, the whole family is also busy. Su's father and his son-in-law were busy working in the fields outside, and Su's mother was busy with a lot of things at home. The tofu house and sauce house were now handed over to Su Qingliu. Su Qingliu's marriage to Wei Fuqian was very comfortable, especially after she became pregnant. Wei Fuqian's dead heart also came to life. I also want to give my children some good conditions and help Su Qingneo with all kinds of things. Su Dehu was once arrested to dig iron ore for half a year, and he was very familiar with the mining business, so he volunteered to take over the job. Sometimes when the farming was busy and the mountain people were on vacation, he would come back to help Su Qingyu with things in the fields. Qing Xin followed Su Qingneo and became a little follower, learning to read the account book and helping Su Qingneo reconcile the accounts. As for Qing Yang, he had gone to Guheng from time to time to ask questions. Later, he had a deep chat with Su Qingyu and realized that in troubled times, survival was the most important thing, and he did not think about changing his appearance and family by studying for the imperial examination. Instead, he worked hard every day to learn Kung Fu from Ma Xian. Ma Xian's children are not around at all, and they are surrounded by a group of rough people. Qing Yang is by his side, just to pass his time. He also liked Qing Yang, accepted him as his disciple, and taught him all the martial arts. Qing Yang followed him and studied very seriously. I won't go home until dark. As for the two children, Yaya has been somewhat addicted to it since she started learning needlework from her grandmother and Grandma Lu. I want to finish my studies quickly and make clothes for my little brother and the younger brothers and sisters in my mother's belly. Now it's good. Only Xiaobao has no one to play with. He took Xioma around Xinjiang village for a few rounds and looked for him. His mother and sister were gone. He hugged the horse's legs and began to think about life. Qing Yang saw that everyone was busy and no one cared about Xiaobao. Seeing that Chennai looked lonely, he took him to the training camp in the valley. Since each village has selected young men to follow the training, it has never stopped. At the beginning of the training, there were 600 or 700 people. Later, when the joint villages became 45, the number of people also increased. There are thousands of people in each training. The sound of the men's training resounded through the mountains. It attracted adults and children from nearby villages to climb up the mountain to watch in the valley. Seeing the young men in training look well trained and their mental outlook is different from others, the mountain people are envious. It was also the first time that Xiaobao was led to the training site in the valley. As soon as he saw it, his eyes widened. Wow! The little guy, who can't express himself yet, can only say wow, wow. He opened his mouth wide and clapped his hands vigorously. As he watched, his little hands and feet began to move freely. He also followed suit. Hey, ha, ha. His hands and feet were soft and weak, but he had a good memory, and he could follow the movements of punching and kicking. Ma Xinyuan was watching with a smile on his face, seeing that he was so small, not even as tall as his knees, and he followed the adults to learn to gesture. This scene was quite funny. But after watching for a while, he couldn't laugh anymore. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bha 11U. Chapter 314. Ma Xian's face gradually became serious. Read. This kid. Hiss. This punching and kicking is quite methodical. Ma Xian stared at Xiaobao in concentration. It's been a while, but the child is still following the gesture. Sure. Not only are his movements very methodical, but also rare is that he is very patient. Ma Xian couldn't help but nodded and walked towards Xiaobao. Xiaobeo's side was blocked by someone. He tilted his head and stretched his hands and feet to the side. Ma Xian couldn't help but laugh, and took another wrong step to block his line of sight. Xiaobeo's head turned to the other side, stretching his head to look at the training ground. There is no delay in the hands and feet. Ma Xian smiled and took another step to the other side, blocking his view on the other side. Xiaobeo simply stopped and took a few steps to the side, and now he saw it. Just as he was about to follow suit, his line of sight was once again blocked by someone. He stamped his feet, twisted his little body and trotted towards the unobstructed place on the other side. Ma Xian took another big step to block his sight again. Xiaobeo finally got angry. He clenched his fists, shook his hands heavily, raised his neck and looked at the person coming with an angry look. Humph, who is it? So bad. Seeing his angry chirping, Ma Xian was so cute and funny that he burst into laughter. Grandpa Ma. You are evil. It turned out to be Grandpa Ma. Xiaobeo raised his neck and pouted with an accusatory look on his face. Ha ha ha. Humph still laughing. Seeing Grandpa Ma laughing non-stop, Xiaobeo became angry. Decided to ignore him and turned around to find his uncle. Hey, where is uncle? Seeing that Xiaobeo was irritated, Ma Xian tried his best to hold back his laughter. Okay, Grandpa Ma won't laugh anymore. After coaxing for a long time, Xiaobeo was coaxed. What are you looking at, Xiaobeo? Watch them training. Hum ha ha ha. Ma Xian wanted to laugh again when he saw that his little hands and feet were following the gestures again. But I was afraid that my child would explode, so I held it back. Such an interesting child cannot be allowed to run away. Xiaobeo, do you like watching it? She coaxed him. I like it. Xiaobeo was hugged by him and nodded. After nodding, he looked at Ma Xian. Grandpa Ma, you are so amazing. You can teach so many people. After they learn it, can they be as good as you? Yes, as long as they study hard, they will be as good as Grandpa. Does Xiaobeo want to learn from Grandpa? Think. Xiaobeo nodded heavily without even thinking about it. He wants to learn. This is quite fun. He also wants to become powerful. Okay, so good. Ma Xian touched Xiaobeo's head, then touched Xiaobeo's muscles and bones, and nodded secretly, feeling a little surprised. He looked at Xiaobeo and said softly, Xiaobeo, Grandpa is doing a set of boxing tricks. Xiaobeo can see if he can remember it and follow Grandpa to do the tricks together. Okay. Good. Xiaobeo nodded. He will definitely remember it. Xiaobeo is the most powerful. He memorized the books his uncle taught him to read. His mother praised him. Ma Xian looked at the child's firm eyes and couldn't help but praise in his heart. Then he stood up and slowly performed a set of boxing techniques at a slow speed. Xiaobeo watched intently, and his little hands and feet began to move. When Ma Xian closed his momentum, Xiaobeo also closed his momentum. Ma Xian was a little surprised. This kid really memorized his moves. Wow, Xiaobeo is so awesome. Ma Xian saw the child looking at him intensely, waiting for his approval, so he clapped his hands and praised him sincerely. Xiaobeo was praised and tilted his head happily with a proud look on his face. Ma Xian smiled and touched the child's head. Grandpa will speed up the action next. Let's see if Xiaobeo still remembers it. Xiaobeo was aroused to be competitive. Okay. Grandpa is playing tricks. Xiaobeo will definitely remember it. Ma Xian increased his speed slightly and started punching. Xiaobeo also followed suit and punched. When Ma Xian stopped and looked at Xiaobeo, he was a little shocked. This kid made every move perfectly and followed him. Xiaobeo, Grandpa will hurry up and try another trick. Let's see if Xiaobeo still remembers it. Okay, Grandpa, come on. Ma Xian used another set of punches, and the speed increased again. Looking at Xiaobao again, he was a little confused at first and his movements were very slow, but he remembered every move. This is because the child is too young and his hands and feet are uncoordinated. When he stopped his momentum, he saw Xiaobao also doing the same to stop his movement. Ma Xian was shocked again. This kid! What a genius! Ma Xian was surprised and happy. Where is this child from? A peasant family? This is obviously a descendant from a family of military commanders. With this talent, he also has excellent muscles and bones. He is a prodigy in martial arts. There can be no delay. Grandfather? Seeing that Ma Xian was lost in thought, Xiaobao stretched out his little hand and grabbed the hem of his clothes and shook him. Hey! Ma Xian came back to his senses, squatted down and looked at Xiaobao. His expression was unusually kind. Grandpa, you haven't said whether Xiaobao can learn it well or not. Has Xiaobao remembered it? Horse's confidence is vibrating, and his love for talents gradually arises. Touching Xiaobao's head, he said softly, like, Xiaobao learned the same thing and remembered it all. It's amazing. Grandpa has to be as old as your uncle to be like Xiaobao. When Xiaobao heard this, he was so proud. The little head was raised, the corners of the mouth were raised high, and he was extremely proud. If there was a tail behind him, it might even be wagging to the sky. Ma Xian couldn't help but laugh. This child was so cute and so lovable. He quickly calmed down. I made a decision in my mind. Such a good child cannot be delayed. He must have a good chat with Ching Ching. He picked him up and said, let's go, Grandpa will take you to see below and teach you about weapons. Xiaobao clapped his little hands happily, okay, I still want to touch them. Okay, let me touch it for you. Grandpa, can you run horses here? Able. Wow, then I'll bring my pony here next time. My grandpa gave me a white pony. It's so beautiful. I'll bring it to you next time. Okay. Grandpa Ma also has a big black horse. Does Xiaobao want to ride it? Yes. Wow, a big horse. My grandpa also had a tall and big horse. Xiaobao even rode it? Really? Xiaobao is really amazing. The big one and the little one walked away talking. In the evening, Ma Xian personally sent Xiaobao back after he had had enough fun. The Su family welcomed his arrival. Now Qingyang is learning skills from him. He has accepted Qingyang and is Qinjiang's master. The whole family treated him very politely. Nowadays, people regard masters seriously. Once a teacher is a lifelong father, it is not just words. That's engraved in my bones. It was dinner time when he came, so the family stayed at home to eat. After happily eating, Ma Xian mentioned the reason for his visit. Although Su Qingnao knew that he must have come, otherwise he would not have left thousands of young men and ran over in person. But unexpectedly, he was talking about Xiaobao. Her son who said he wanted to sleep with the pony in his arms and tuck the pony in quilt. Did he have a talent for martial arts? Still have good bones. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bajia 11U. Chapter 315. Su Qingyu thought she heard wrongly. What did Ma Xian say that her son was talented in martial arts and had excellent bones? Is this a genetic mutation? Neither Su nor Lu's family has this gene, and his father also became a monk in the middle of his life. So, Xiaobao's bones are so good? Is this real? Su Qinjiao knows that Xiaobao has a very good memory. If the world is stable and he is well guided, it shouldn't be a problem to become a scholar. It will also be good to be exempted from personal tax, labor, and other services. But the world is so chaotic, What's the point of getting out after taking the exam? So, Xiaobao closed a door and opened a window for him. Uncle Xian, are you saying that Xiaobao has the talent to learn martial arts? He is also willing to learn. Ma Xian nodded, yes, this child has a very good talent, and what's rare is that he also has a very good memory. I played 2 sets of boxing techniques, showing them at different speeds, and asked him to follow the gestures. Xiaobao followed and recorded the movements, and the gestures were very impressive. And he watched everyone train, and he watched them for most of an hour. He didn't even move his feet, and his little hands and feet followed him very patiently. Ah, does her son still have this ability? Su Qingyu couldn't believe it. He turned around and looked towards Xiaobao. Xiaobao had just finished eating and was holding a basin of water. He was pulling his sister to feed his beloved pony. Sister, this is mountain spring water. It's delicious when you make tea. Pony will definitely like to drink it too. The little mouth kept saying, tomorrow, I will give Pony some fried beans to eat. Pony is so adorable. Sister, come with me. Yai replied to him, okay. Su Qingyu shook her head. Does her childish son have a talent for martial arts? Still have good bones? Then. Su Qingyu thought about it for a while and then spoke suspiciously. Ma Xian also looked away from Xiaobao. Said, Xiaobao has such a talent, so we can't delay him. Let me enlighten him first. In the future, if he has another destiny, we will arrange for a famous teacher. Every morning when Qingyang goes to the market town, he will take him with him. Come back with Qingyang in the evening. The child has such a talent, we must catch it from now on, and we can't let it go to waste. Ma Xian was afraid that Su Qingyu would delay Xiaobao, so he made this trip himself. Isn't this too young? Her son is only 3.5 years old. Does this mean he needs to stay in the market town all day? Will Xiaobao cause trouble? Xiaobao is only 3.5 years old, is he about to start stretching his legs and feet? Is it too early? Will it hinder the growth of the body, bones, etc.? When Ma Xian heard this, he glared at her. Su Qingyu was shocked. Uncle Xian. It's parents like you who dote on their children that kill their children's talents. Well. Calm down. Maybe Xiaobao likes it? Should we wait until he starts crying? Uncle Xian, I didn't mean that. I was afraid that he would cry and make a fuss. He hasn't seen his family all day long, and I was afraid that he would make a fuss and want to come back. Then it would delay Uncle Xian's important events. Ma Xian looked disapproving, if the child cries, let him cry. When he is done fussing and realizes that it will not help, he will stop fussing. What can such a young child understand? If parents are really good for him, they should do it for him as soon as possible. Imagine. Well, shouldn't it be up to the child to choose his own path? There seems to be something different. Okay, since Uncle Xian thinks Xiaobao has talent, it's up to Uncle Xian to take more trouble. I don't know much about that, so you can decide what to do, and I'll leave him to you. Ma Xian felt relieved after hearing what she said. He glanced sideways at her. Maybe the parent would feel distressed before the child was healed. Said, don't worry. This child is very popular with me. I will train him to be a talented person. Your godfather mentions Xiaobao every time he writes, because he is afraid that you will delay him. Su Qing couldn't help but nod, okay, let your godfather and Uncle Xian worry about it. Then Uncle Xian can take care of it. Don't worry, I'm here. Xiaobao is not young anymore. He is already 3.5 years old, and he is already 4 or 5 years old. Your godfather could only walk when he was a child, and he was dragged to the schoolyard by his father and grandfather to stand still. Xiaobao is now, it's already too late. Well, whatever the boss says is what it is, and you can't argue with the boss. If rich families have the resources and conditions, they will educate their children early, allowing their children to learn various skills from famous teachers. Xiaobao, since you have the conditions, let's learn it. Such is the world. Any idea of a happy childhood is nonsense. Maybe Xiaobao is particularly resistant to being beaten? Yes, that's it. Who allowed him to act stupidly in front of the boss, and the boss couldn't put it down? Su Qingyu looked towards Xiaobao again. Her silly son was still whispering to his sister, discussing how to take care of the pony. Little did he know that his hard days were coming. Training, standing, running with weights, learning weapons, archery. Su Qingyu shivered smartly. Son, wish yourself well. My thin arms can't twist my thighs, so I can't save you. The next day, after being instructed by Ma Xian, Qingyang pulled Xiaobao up from the bed while he was still sleeping soundly. Xiaobao was still sleeping so hard that his face was covered with marks and his drool was still drooling. His uncle dug him up when he was in a daze. He squinted his eyes when washing his face and dressing up, as if he hadn't slept enough. They were quickly packed up by his uncle, carried in a small backpack, and climbed the mountain road to the training ground. Su's mother followed him out with a worried look on her face. When he turned around, he glared at Su Qingyu. How old is Xiaobao? It's not even dawn yet, so you just let the child learn skills. How can it be too late to learn with a talent like his uncle? Su Qingyu touched her nose. My dear mother, why didn't you throw this in Ma Xian's face yesterday? Everyone is gone, you come to ask me? Ignore her and get busy. Mother Su stamped her feet, thinking that her grandson would soon begin to suffer, and she felt very distressed. I don't know if I will be comfortable there. Was there any crying? Mother Su had been in a daze all day long, not concentrating on anything and making frequent mistakes. Mother Su watched on the mountain road for a whole day, and finally, when the last ray of light was hidden on the top of the mountain, she looked forward to the return of her uncle and nephew. Qingyang put the little treasure in the northern basket and carried it back. He learned martial arts and carried the little treasure back and forth, which was perfect for training his physical fitness. When Su's mother saw the two of them appearing, she hurried over. Seeing his uncle and nephew talking and laughing all the way, he breathed a sigh of relief. When he got close, he took the little baby out of the basket, kissed it again and again, and touched it again and again. It seemed like her beloved little grandson had suffered so much. Xiaobao, are you good? Are you crying over there? Xiaobao shook his head in Mother Su's arms. Grandma, Xiaobao is good and didn't cry. It was fun today. Grandpa Ma took Xiaobao to learn how to squat on a horse, and he also led Xiaobao to chase the big horse and held Xiaobao in his arms. Riding a big horse, it's so tall and big. It's just like my grandfather's big horse. Wow, really? It's so good. Mother Su was relieved, fearing that her grandson could not express herself clearly, so she looked at Qingyang again. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bhaya 11U. Chapter 316. Qingyang took off the backpack. Read. Then he said, Mom, don't worry, he is still young, and master will not treat him like he treats me. I didn't squat for too long in the horse stance. I took him to chase the horse, just to let him run and practice his endurance. Mother Su felt relieved. When Su Qingyu came back, Qingyang told her again. Su Qingyu felt relieved when she saw that Xiaobao didn't cry or make trouble, and thought it was fun to go to the market town to learn skills. Don't worry about it anymore. She doesn't have the ability, so let the people who have the ability worry about it. Half a month passed like this. After Su's father finished planting late rice, he came back to harvest early rice in the mountains. On this day, Su Qingyu was leading the people in the village to clean up the open space and prepare mats for drying rice. Xiaobao cried loudly and was carried back by Qingyang. Su Qingnao heard her son's loud cry from halfway up the mountain. She was up and down in a rhythmic manner. She cried so hard that her heart trembled, and she hurriedly ran back from the mountain. "What's the matter, Xiaobao?" Su Qingyu asked from a distance. As soon as I saw the door, I saw the whole family coming back, thinking that something had happened to Xiaobao. Qingyang stood there with an embarrassed look on his face, scratching his head. "Mother, mother," when Xiaobao saw his mother coming back, he immediately broke through the surroundings and threw himself into Su Qingyu's arms. "Oh, little baby, if you don't cry, tell mom, what's wrong? Don't cry anymore, don't cry anymore." Su Qingyu took him over. While bumping him, he touched him up and down. When he saw that the child was well and not injured anywhere, he asked Qingyang with his eyes. Su's father and Su's mother felt extremely distressed when they saw their little grandson hanging on Su Qingyu's neck and crying non-stop. Xiaobao is usually cheerful and lively, and rarely cries. "Tell me quickly, what happened to your nephew?" Su's mother was so anxious that she patted Qingyang. "It's okay. It's just that Xiaobao didn't like the lunch in the market town. He threw his chopsticks and was scolded by the master. When he felt wronged, he cried and shouted to go home." "Ah, that's all?" Su Qingyu looked at her son with some disgust. When Su's father and mother Su heard this, they breathed a long sigh of relief. "Just hope the child is fine." Su Qingyu was quite speechless. It's not because her son is training too hard, or because he misses his mother, sister, or grandparents, but because he dislikes the lunch meal for not being delicious. If she hadn't lost her temper, she would have forgotten her son's picky problem. Let me tell you, how can such a young child endure all that hardship? To learn skills, why can't you wait until the child is older to learn? Look, my grandson will cry. Come, grandma, hug him and stop crying. Brother, stop crying. I'll ask grandma to make delicious food for you. Yaya also went to hold his hand. Xiaobao hugged Su Qingyu's neck tightly, refusing to let anyone pull at him. It hung on Su Qingyu's neck. Su Qingnao then said to Su's father and others, "It's okay, mother, I'll coax him. Dad and sister, you go and do your work. Qingyang and Qingxing also go and do their work." "Okay, then Dad is going to work. If anything happens, just ask someone to call Dad." "Yaya, play well with your brothers," Su Qingliu confessed and left. Mother Su saw that Xiaobao refused to come down, so she took the children to the kitchen and said she wanted to make delicious food for Xiaobao. What a pity, her grandson, following a group of rough guys in a market town, how can they get any good food? She had to go and make something delicious for Xiaobao. After everyone left, only the mother and son were left. Su Qingjao gently broke him off, but didn't break him off, so she had to forget it. I carried him to the house and sat down. After thinking about it, I mixed some cheese sticks from the system and gave them to him. She hasn't used the system for a long time. Now she doesn't lack food or drink, she just uses it as a tool to coax her children. When Xiaobao saw it, his mother gave him delicious food that no one else had and only he could eat. He immediately wiped his tears, grabbed the cheese stick tightly in his hand, and protected it against his chest. While eating, he didn't forget his sister. "Mom, can't you eat with your sister? Didn't you give it to your sister last time? She couldn't see it, right?" Yes, Xiaobao was a little embarrassed. "Why can't sister see you?" "Because this is a gift from Grandpa Tian to reward Xiaobao. In the future, if my sister does something that makes Grandpa Tian happy, maybe Grandpa Tian will reward her with such a gift." "Oh well." Seeing Xiaobao taking one open and putting it in his mouth, he started sucking it happily. Su Qingyu decided to reason with him. Originally, she didn't want the child to learn martial arts so early if he couldn't say it himself. But the child likes it and has been learning martial arts for half a month. He doesn't give up because he doesn't want to learn martial arts, but because there is no good food. This is a bit serious. Since it is your own choice, you have to finish the journey even if there is nothing good to eat. Xiaobao, do you want to be able to eat the delicious food given by Grandpa Tian in the future? Xiaobao nodded, I think. Just think. Grandpa K. Tian said he only wants to give good children. There will be no good children. Xiaobao is good, he is a good boy. Is Xiaobao good? But just now my uncle said that Xiaobao and Grandpa Ma threw chopsticks. Is this what good children do? Xiaobao's hand holding the cheese stick paused. He turned around, fell into Sukingyu's arms, and stopped talking. Xiaobao, Grandpa Ma is my uncle's master, and now he is also your enlightenment master. He is a grandpa and an elder. You threw your chopsticks with Grandpa. This is not a good boy. Sukingyu patiently tried to reason with him. Xiaobao is good. He quietly defended himself while lying in Sukingyu's arms. But Mom and Grandpa Tian will think this is a bad sign. If Grandpa Tian takes back the gift, not only will Xiaobao not be able to eat delicious food, but Mom will not be able to eat either. Xiaobao suddenly raised his head. Grandpa Tian gave us gifts, why did he take them back? The pony given by Grandpa was not taken back. If Grandpa knew that Xiaobao was not good, he might have sent someone to take the pony back. No. If you give Xiaobao away, it will be Xiaobao's, he yelled. After yelling, he burst into tears, as if the pony that had been with him for so long was about to be taken away in the next moment. He pursed his lips and looked like he was about to cry. Tears welled up in her eyes, as if they would roll down as soon as Sukingyu said she would take them away. Sukingyu felt that it was a bit cruel to say this to her children. However, raising a child requires not only food and clothing, but also education. For such a young child, I don't know how to break down the truth and explain it to him. Bald head. As long as Xiaobao is obedient, sensible, and a good child, Grandpa will not take the pony back. Grandpa Tian will also keep the gift for Xiaobao. It belongs to Xiaobao, the one given belongs to Xiaobao. Then Xiaobao, do you want to be a good boy? After asking and waiting for a moment, the child nodded, Xiaobao, please be a good boy. Sukingyu nodded happily. If Xiaobao doesn't want to learn the skills anymore, then Mommy will tell Grandpa Ma that I won't send you away and let Uncle go alone from tomorrow on, okay? Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bha 11u. Chapter 317. When Xiaobao heard that Sukingyu would not send him to ride a horse, he immediately shouted, no. Sukingyu looked at him, why is it bad? Didn't Xiaobao throw his chopsticks at Grandpa Ma? He just doesn't want to learn. Reading. No. Xiaobao wants to learn and ride a big horse. After saying that, he looked at Sukingneo and was a little scared when he saw Sukingneo's expressionless face. Holding the little hand, Grandpa Ma said that when Xiaobao becomes more powerful, he can ride a big horse and go anywhere. If he doesn't have the ability, the pony will not want Xiaobao when he grows up. Xiaobao wants to learn skills. So you want to learn how to ride a big horse, but are you afraid that a small horse won't want you? Then did you do something wrong today? After waiting for a long time, the stubborn son nodded. Then do you want to learn your skills tomorrow? Want? Can I accompany you to apologize to Grandpa Ma? You did something wrong today. Xiaobao lowered his head and nodded after a long while, okay. Then you can't cry anymore and listen to Grandpa Ma, okay. Good. Sukingyu touched his little head, be good. Then when Grandpa Ma says that Xiaobao has become more powerful, and that Xiaobao is good and obedient, Mother can ask Grandpa Tian to bring some delicious food to Xiaobao, okay. Okay, I want a lot of it, something I haven't eaten before. And I can't take the gift back. Okay, I want a lot of it, something I haven't eaten before. And I won't take it back. After coaxing Xiaobao, Sukingyu read several parenting books from the system in the evening and gained some knowledge on raising children. 69shux.com. During the growth of a young child, regarding his dietary and nutritional issues, language cognitive issues, social and emotional issues, the child's inner world, how to communicate with the child, how to interact with the child. Nang Li, why are there so many problems in raising a child? Want to run away? Looking at her son sleeping beside her, Sukingyu felt a headache. If she is a daughter, she will be pampered. But what can a boy do without being beaten? Living with my mother and elders for a long time has made me arrogant. How can a boy learn to be picky about what he eats and drinks? Dare you throw your chopsticks? No, tomorrow I have to tell Qingyang that if Xiaobao cries and makes trouble in the future, she will definitely not be able to hold him back. Just let him cry as much as he wants. A small sapling cannot be allowed to grow freely. It must be manually intervened from time to time, otherwise it will become crooked as it grows. Boy babies, unlike girl babies, have to be beaten and beaten. The next day, Sukingyu got up early in the morning. Turning his head and looking to the side, "Hey, my son also opened his eyes in a daze. It seems that I am used to getting up at this time. Son, get up. Mom will accompany you to learn your skills today." After the mother and son washed up, Sukingyu personally carried him in the basket and headed to the training ground. After walking only a little way, I was very tired. Is your son so heavy? Or is she unable to climb the mountain road? Sister, how about I carry it? Mom, little baby, come down and go. It's okay. Sister, I'll recite one more section, and you can change to sister. After saying that, he turned around and glanced at Qingyang. Okay, after walking on such a mountainous road, I didn't feel red or out of breath. I can still carry my nephew on my back twice a day. It seems the training is paying off. Qingyang nodded happily. Well, I'm learning to spear with Master now. Master said I'm much better than before. That's right. Study hard with your master. Even if you don't have talent, you can still learn well through hard work. Mom, I'll learn too. I'll be better than my uncle in the future. Xiaobao was not to be outdone. Okay, you are great. But you can't keep crying and want to go home, okay? Your grandma said that every morning, she would ask uncle to carry delicious food there, and have someone cook it for you at noon, but you can't do it anymore. Throw your chopsticks, okay? Mother Su also said that she made lunch every day and sent someone to deliver it. Sukingyu did not agree. You cannot let your child have this habit of eating and drinking since he was a child. Su's father and Su's mother loved their grandson, and finally asked Qingyang to bring the prepared food over in the morning. At noon, they asked people from the barracks over there to cook it, and let Xiaobao, Ma Xian, and Qingyang eat together. They didn't do anything special and just prepared it. Some things that babies usually like to eat. Sukingyu had no choice but to agree. Xiaobao also knew that he had done something wrong yesterday. When his mother told him that he threw his chopsticks yesterday, he was originally holding the edge of the basket with his little hands, but now he squatted in the basket in embarrassment, unwilling to stand out. Seeing that he didn't respond, Sukingyu shook her backpack. Xiaobao, mother is talking to you, why shouldn't you answer me? It took a while before I heard my son say, Xiaobao is a good boy, he won't throw his chopsticks. Sukingyu nodded happily. Well, everyone likes good children. Grandma made you a bag of snacks. If you feel homesick and want to eat delicious food, just open it and eat it. Don't make it the same as yesterday. Oh. Xiaobao doesn't know that. Then let's pull the hook, okay. Sukingyu stretched her hand above the backpack. Xiaobao popped his head out of the basket on his back and stretched out his fingers to hook up with Su Qingyu. Su Qingnao and Qing Yang praised him all the way, and they praised him happily. When he saw Ma Xian, he happily stood up from the basket and stretched out his little hands to hug Ma Xian. Ma Xian laughed, reached into the backpack and picked him up. Grandpa Ma, Xiaobao did something wrong yesterday, and he won't do it again. From now on, Xiaobao will learn from Grandpa Ma and become as powerful as Grandpa Ma. He can also ride a big horse and ride as fast as Grandpa Ma. Okay. Then let's learn from Grandpa Ma. Okay. Ma Xian was very comforted. This is a child who is loved by others. Good. Uncle Xian, I'm sorry, this child has made you worry. Ma Xian waved his hand at her. The child is still young. It's normal for adults to worry more. Xiaobao is already very sensible. I have never seen many children as sensible as him. This child is very talented and I will guide him well in the future. Su Qingyu felt relieved, then let Uncle Xian worry about it. Don't worry. Holding Xiaobao in his arms, he said to Qing Yang, go and practice horse riding, and practice the marksmanship taught yesterday. Yes, master. Grandpa Ma, where is Xiaobao? Grandpa Ma, would you like to take Xiaobao to ride a big horse? Okay, he was happiest when riding a big horse. He could sit high and see far, and the wind was blowing comfortably. Xiaobao clapped his little hands and was very happy. Ma Xian hugged Xiaobao and turned around to leave, saying to Su Qingyu, go back, I'm here, don't worry. Su Qingnao couldn't help but laugh when she saw her son, who waved his little hand towards her and was happily hugged by Ma Xian and walked away while talking. He also turned around and returned to the village. The food from several cities in Renzhou has been shipped to Godfather Reyes Hu. The villagers should also take advantage of the good weather to dry the rice and store it in storage. Winter wheat must also be planted. The slopes in the mountains are not as fertile as the fertile fields outside. After harvesting rice, it seems that we need to plow deeply and replenish fertilizers. Fortunately, there is a lot of mulch deep in the jungle, otherwise she would still have to worry about farm fertilizer. Su Qingyu was thinking about food and Xiaobao all the time. It is really not an easy task to educate a child to be a talented person. Now that the child has learned martial arts, he can't be a reckless man in the future, right? Cultural knowledge must also keep up. Just what should I teach him? 3-character classic, 100 family surnames and 1000-character classic? Is it too early to arrange 300,000 at this time? Xiaobao can memorize the 3-character sutra and reads it like a children's song, which is very catchy. But let him hold the pen, it's a little crooked. Do you want to teach him something else? Just teach what? Su Qingyu thought about it all the way back to Xinjianzai. As he was walking towards his home, he saw Liang Si and Sudahua pulling back and forth. These two people? Would it be embarrassing to see her? Su Qingyu thought for a while and hid aside. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bajia 11U. Chapter 318. Brother Su, this is the summer dress I made for you, please accept it. Liang Si stopped Sudahua and handed him the summer dress that had been made and put away for a while. Sudahua didn't know if he was avoiding her, she hadn't seen him in Xinjiang village for a long time. Mother said that she would be 18 years old soon. If Sudahua didn't have any interest in her, she would ask someone to find a family with better conditions in the village for her to marry. Mother went to the market town from time to time in the past 6 months and met many people. After coming back, she also told her with emotion how good the conditions of the people in the mountains are now. She didn't blink an eye and didn't feel sorry at all when she ordered half a caddy or 1 caddy of food in the restaurant in the market town. Mother used to look down on the people in the mountains, thinking that they were poor and ran into the mountains without fields. Now seeing that everyone spends money generously in the market town, she has changed her view of the mountain people a lot. She is also willing to hang out with the mountain people. Mother always said that the mountain people could pick up mountain products to sell all year round. They not only sold tea twice a year, but also sold tea seeds, mountain products, and grew grain twice a year. Every household had enough food and money. Mother's words were full of envy. She didn't expect that the people in the mountains were not poor at all. Farmers outside the village couldn't make ends meet if they had many people in the family, but the more people in the family in the mountains, the more money they could earn. She saved several taels of silver last year, and she has saved another 6 or 7 taels of silver so far this year. If there are many people in the family, a lot of money can be saved in a year. When mother told her, she was very envious, so she wanted to marry her in the mountains. As long as you are diligent in the mountains, you can have food. She also saved some money herself, and by next year she will be able to save the money for the house she lives in now, and then the house will really belong to her. But mother said that a house with only 2 women doesn't feel like a home. She is going to find a husband for her. Liang Si stuffed the summer clothes into Sudahu's hands. She thought a lot in an instant, and her heart was a little complicated. If she was going to marry a mountain man, she didn't want to marry someone else, and she didn't know them. Liang Si looked at Sudahu. Sudahu declined. No, Sister Liang, I don't lack clothes to wear. Aunts and others made a lot of clothes for me, and I can't wear them all. There are many that I haven't worn yet. Don't spend money, keep them for your life. If you need my help, just ask. Liang Si saw Sudahu push the clothes back to her, and she felt a little sad. Somewhat lost, and a little embarrassed. She didn't dare to raise her head. You accept it? I made it according to your body shape. If you don't accept it, I don't know who to give it to. After saying that, she stuffed the clothes into Sudahu's hands and turned and ran away. Sister Liang. Sudahu chased her for 2 steps, and saw that she was getting farther and farther away. He wanted to catch up, but was afraid of being misunderstood. Looking at the summer clothes in his hand, he had to hold it and enter the yard. Su Qingmei hid aside and waited for a long time before coming out. She looked in the direction of Liang Si. This Liang Si. I heard that she was a good person. Guo said that she was diligent, quick-handed, and didn't look around or ask too much. Since she asked to be transferred to the tofu shop, she has earned more money, but it is still very hard work compared to the sauce shop. She hasn't asked to be transferred back for more than half a year. She is a hard-working person. Moreover, after work, she would go into the mountains to collect some mountain products and delicacies to sell. She is very different from her mother who likes to visit people and does nothing. Just her and Sudahu. If she is the only one, she can match Sudahu, and Liang Si is not bad looking, and she should have Dahu in her heart. But, she still has such a lazy mother. Sudahu has suffered for 10 or 20 years, and Su Qingmei doesn't want him to be trapped in family trivialities for the rest of his life. Sudahu is just like her brother, and she doesn't want to see him live a bad life. Su Qing'an entered the yard, and Sudahu had just put away the summer clothes Liang Si sent and left the room. He was a little embarrassed to see Su Qing'an, and looked into the room. He was afraid that Su Qing'an saw him. Qing'an, did you send Xiaobao back? Did he make a fuss? Su Qing'an smiled and said, no, if he makes a fuss again, lock him up and punish him. Sudahu also laughed, somewhat disapproving. Xiaobao is still young, talk to him slowly, he is sensible and can be coaxed. Yeah, she was just talking. If she really locked Xiaobao up, she would be heartbroken first. Su Qing'an finished speaking and prepared to go into the house. Sudahu stopped her. Qing'an, wait a minute. I have something to give you. What is it? Sudahu did not answer, turned around and strode into his room. After a while, he took out a bottle. Here. What is this? Suqing'an took it in her hand and turned it over and over. Just as she was about to open the lid, she was stopped by Sudahu. Open it when you take it, don't let the medicinal properties disperse. It contains yang rong pills. Ah, give it to me. Sudahu nodded. I see you are very tired recently. You have to worry about everything and look tired. This is a ginseng I dug on the mountain over the mine. I asked Uncle Ling from the clinic to help make yang rong pills. Uncle Ling said that you only need to take one pill a day. Suqing'an looked at him in shock after hearing this, and couldn't speak for a long time. Why don't you sell it for money? I usually eat well, so I just need to rest more, and I don't need to supplement. It's okay. I live and eat at your house now, and my aunt has taken care of my clothes and daily necessities. I don't lack money. Just try it. If it works, I will find it for you next time. No, 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 the dense forests in the mountains are dangerous, so don't go there. Don't worry, I'll be fine if I just pay more attention to rest. Don't go into the mountains for me to look for ginseng. If something happens, my parents will probably beat me to death. Suqingnao refused, fearing that he would really go into the mountains to find ginseng for her. Sudahu scratched his head and smiled. Okay. That ginseng is not that easy to find. If I encounter it, I will keep it for you. After that, he walked away. Suqingyu looked at his back blankly, squeezed the yang rong pill in her hand, not knowing what to say. My heart is heavy. A few days later, the wheat was harvested in the mountains and the late rice was planted, giving the family some free time. Su's mother was doing needlework with Yaya and Qingxing. Suqingyu, Qingliu, and Su's father were sitting next to them, drinking tea and eating, watching them. Listening to Su's mother scolding Qingxing from time to time, the few people just sat there and couldn't help but laugh. Look at you, you can't do it as well as Yaya. Where are you thinking? Not to mention your stitches, I have already cut them for you and let you sew along. You can sew the sleeves to make one side longer and the other shorter. So much difference. Mom, it would be nice if she didn't sew the sleeves to the collars. Suqingyu held her belly and laughed. Last time, Su's mother told her to let Qingxing connect the sleeves to the armholes, while she sewed them directly to the neckline. The neckline is rolled up, does it look like the sleeves? I was scolded by Mother Su for several days. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bhaya 11U. Chapter 319. Just after Suqingyu finished speaking, Suqingyu and Su's father started laughing. X-Red. You looked very clever when you were young, but when you grow up, your hands and feet become clumsy. Su's father looked at Qingxing and said with a smile. Qingxing glared at Su's father. My second sister said that everyone has their own talents, just like Xiaobao, who is more talented in martial arts than my second brother. My second brother has the talent for learning, and my second sister has the talent for business. Each has his own talent. You only have the gift of opening your mouth to eat, Mother Su scolded her. Mom, are you my biological mother? You have to criticize me every day. I also have talent. My second sister said that I have the talent of accounting. After saying this, he looked proud. Your brothers and sisters all have their own ability to survive. Even your two nephews have it, but you have no ability. Su's mother was extremely angry at her. Why didn't I? She was so angry. Su's father smiled as he listened to the fight between mother and daughter. Thinking of his eldest son, he asked Suqingyu, didn't you get any letters from your eldest brother during this time? I don't know if he agreed with what I told him last time. Seeing Su's father talking about Suqingxing, Su's mother also stopped moving. He also looked at Suqingyu. Suqingnao knew that they were thinking about Suqingxing. He said, "No, I saw shopkeeper Ding yesterday and asked him if any caravans from Chenzhou were coming. Their business environment in Renzhou is now better, and caravans from Chenzhou come almost every few days. But there is no caravan from our house." Letter. After hearing this, Mother Sue's eyes darkened. "Now we are in the mountains and living a good life. I don't know what's going on with your brother. Ten is almost a year old and should be able to crawl and walk. Your father and I are thinking about him, and we don't know when we can meet each other." Father Su also fell silent. Su Qingyu glanced at them and remained silent. In addition to Su Qing Song, several children are around now. It was chaotic outside, but life in the mountains was stable and they had no worries about food and drink. The couple often thought of their eldest son. Su Qingnao knew that her godfather was now in a powerful position, so he might need a lot of people. So I suggested to Father Su and Mother Su that they let the eldest brother come to their side. Let him follow his godfather. For her sake, he probably won't treat him too badly. In this way, the family can be reunited. When Sue's father and mother heard this, they were overjoyed and immediately asked her to write a letter. Su Qingyu wrote about their family's situation in the letter. It was said that Father Su and Mother Su missed their grandson and wanted his eldest brother to come here. "I believe it's been 2 or 3 months since I sent it, but I still haven't heard anything from it. Your brother doesn't know what's going on. There are caravans coming to our place every day. When we send things, the caravans always deliver them to him personally, but he doesn't even say that he wants to send a reply." Mother Su also felt resentful and worried when she spoke. "I don't know if something happened." Qing Xin pouted at the side, "Maybe my sister-in-law doesn't want to come." "What are you talking about?" Mother Su raised her hand and wanted to hit her. Qing Xin hurriedly took the needle and thread in her hand, moved the small bench, and ran to Su Qingyu. Su Qingyu looked at her funny. "Then tell me, why doesn't my sister-in-law want to come over? I specifically mentioned the relationship between my godfather and me in the letter. If my brother comes over, even if he is on the same level, it would be better to be under his own people than over there? And he's still far away from us. Being so close, parents can often see their eldest grandson." Sue's father, Sue's mother, and others all nodded after hearing this and looked at Qing Xing, wondering why she said Guruyu didn't want to come. Qing Xin curled her lips. "I don't know what to say, but I just don't think she would want to come over. She lives comfortably in her own little home over there, why would she come over here to serve her parents-in-law? She still has to listen to her father. Mother is nagging." Sue's mother was dissatisfied. "Where are you nagging me and your father? Why are you asking her to serve you?" After speaking, he glared at her, knowing it was nonsense. Su Qingnao and Su Qingliu looked at each other. Neither of them had seen the sister-in-law before, so they didn't know what her personality was like. Sue's father and Sue's mother seemed to have a good impression of her, but Qing Xing seemed to have some objections to her sister-in-law. As for Qing Yang, he couldn't see her more than once a day. The child only said that his brother was working hard. In this world, it is very difficult to find a way out alone. It is wise to huddle together for warmth. No matter how much Su Qingsong was valued by his superior, he might not be as good as the relationship between Ma Mingwen and Su Qingyu. "But my brothers-in-laws are also in the military." Su Qingyu asked Sue's father and Sue's mother, and they only knew that the Gu family was also under the command of the capital, but they couldn't explain the specific official position. Su Qingyu thought for a while, comforted the frowning elders and said, "Don't worry, parents. When Qing Yang comes back in the evening, let him write a letter to his brother asking about the situation. I will inform the caravan next time and let them I must get a reply from my brother." "Okay, that's good. Next time we send something over, let the caravan people wait and let them get your brother's reply before leaving." After Sue's father and Mother Su finished speaking, their hearts were relieved. Father Su warned Mother Su again, then you can make a few more small clothes for Teng. Children grow up quickly. I'm afraid the ones you sent last time won't fit him anymore. Okay, I'll pack a few more clothes. Send them some more cloth, and ask Ruyu to hand it over to the servants for arrangement. When Qingyang and Xiaobao came back in the evening, Su's father and Su's mother captured Qingyang and wrote a letter. Su Qingyu just caught Xiaobao and asked him about his training. Mom, I can squat for such a long time now. Grandpa Ma praises me for how good I am. Some little ones said proudly and used their fingers to indicate the length of the famous incense. Xiaobao is still growing, and Ma Xian is not letting him squat for too long, but is just helping him build his muscles and bones. Really? Xiaobao is so awesome. Su Qingyu praised him after hearing this. Xiaobao raised his head with a proud look on his face. Well, Xiaobao is really amazing. Grandpa Ma also said that when I am as old as my uncle, I will be better than him. Wow, really? Xiaobao nodded solemnly towards Su Qingnao. Well, it's true. Grandpa Ma said it. If you don't believe it, ask Grandpa Ma. Mom doesn't ask, I believe what Xiaobao says. Of course, I am the most well-behaved child, and I will not lie to my mother. Xiaobao is awesome. Xiaobao was very proud of being praised. Su Qingyu couldn't help laughing. This is the time for such an old child to be encouraged and given confidence by adults. Su Qingyu was not shy about praising him. Xiaobao is a cheerful child. When adults affirm him, he will show a proud expression. The more he is praised, the better he seems to behave. So even if he did something wrong, Su Qingyu would rack his brains to praise him first and then reason with him. Fortunately, this child is easy to coax and can listen to what she says. Isn't it hard for Xiaobao? Do you want me to tell Grandpa Ma to let Xiaobao rest for a few days? Xiaobao tilted his head and thought for a while, then shook his head. No, then I won't be able to catch up with my uncle. Grandpa Ma said, now I have 1 day off every 10 days, just like in school. I can only take a break every 10 days. If I rest often, I won't be able to keep up. I'll change, it's not great anymore. Su Qingyu felt very relieved. This kid, with such self-discipline at such a young age, might actually become something. Who doesn't want their children to have a successful career? She also wanted to hope that her son would become a dragon or something. Ma Xian taught Xiaobao for almost a month and was very surprised by his performance. I couldn't help but write about this in a letter to Ma Mingwen. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bha 11U. Chapter 320. Ma Mingwen looked solemn after reading the letter. Read. What did Ma Xian say? Is Xiaobao more self-disciplined than when he was a child? Do you have a talent for martial arts, good bones, and a good memory? You must know that when he was a child, his father and grandfather carried him to the school field to stand still before he could walk. I ate with 1 foot raised and crying on the plum blossom pile. Not just him, all the boys in the family have been trained like this since childhood. Later, he learned that resistance was ineffective and that the more obedient he was, the better his life would be. So every morning, I am the first one to go to the school grounds. Except for sleeping time, I spent all my time in the school grounds. Both his father and grandfather said that he was more self-disciplined than the other brothers. Is Xiaobao more self-disciplined than him now? Ma Mingwen's expression was solemn. Such a good child cannot be delayed. Ma Ming's warm love for talents suddenly arose, and he immediately spread out the paper and wrote a reply to Ma Xian. Ma Mingwen just wrote a reply to Ma Xian and sent someone to send it out. He received an edict from Chang'an for him. Wu Quanzhong actually named him the king of Yu, and placed Yu as Hu, was Hu, Cuz Hu, Tiantai and Yangjia in the hands of the former Zhendong Jadu envoy into his hands. Ma Mingwen held the edict in his hands and didn't come back to his senses for a long time. After he calmed down, he quickly sent someone out to inquire about the news. Soon, various news reached Ma Mingwen. After Wu Quanzhong usurped the throne from the last emperor of Dashuo, he was probably afraid that heroes from all over the country would lead troops to attack him. So after he ascended the throne, he issued several political orders and edicts. Not only Wu Quanzhong was sealed. He also made Huang Shenzi the king of Fujian and assigned the entire Fujian to him. He also named Ma Gu, the former commander of the Hunan Ma Buletin army, the king of Chu, allowing him to take over Hunan. In one fell swoop, he jumped over Ma Ku's immediate boss and received the seal from Ma Ku. He also named Gao Jixing of Hubei province the military governor of Jingnan, and then named Lu Yin, the governor of Lingnan province, the prince of Daipen county. Wu Quanzhong was afraid that bigwigs from all over the country would lead troops to attack him, so he would strike first. The forces that were far away from the hinterland of the Central Plains and had soldiers and horses in various places were blocked one by one. After Wu Quanzhong ascended the throne, many towns in the hinterland of the Central Plains did not recognize him as the leader. Originally, everyone was the same and equal, but why did you suddenly become a traitor and a traitor, seize the throne in such a dishonorable way, and still want us to kowtow and kneel before you? That doesn't make sense. Not convinced. Wu Quanzhong naturally knew that there were many people who refused to accept him. On the one hand, he wanted to concentrate on gathering various towns, but on the other hand, he was worried that forces far away from the hinterland of the Central Plains would lead troops to attack. There was a pincer attack between the two sides, and he didn't even feel hot sitting on the throne, so he might have been outflanked. Therefore, we first started to block the local forces far away from the hinterland of the Central Plains one by one. Plan to stabilize them first. In the hinterland of the Central Plains, he had strong soldiers and horses, and slowly took over the towns one by one. Wang Jian, the military envoy of Sichuan, did not wait for Wu Quanzhong to come to deal with him, but he also wisely did not want to engage in confrontation with Wu Quanzhong's army, so he led his troops and ran away first. Wang Jian looked down on Wu Quanzhong and did not want to recognize him as his master, so he went to Shu, imitated Wu Quanzhong, and became emperor. The country was also named Shu. Wu Quanzhong was so angry. Wang Jian's background was not as good as that of Wu Quanzhong. After all, Wu Quanzhong's family ran a private school, and Wang Jian's ancestors had made a living by selling pancakes for several generations. The family was extremely poor, so in order to survive, Wang Jian turned to smuggling salt. He was called the bastard of thieves. He was despised by others. Later, his smuggling of salt was exposed and he was imprisoned and about to be beheaded. Unexpectedly, he was lucky and was saved by a jailer. Then he ran to Wudane Mountain to escape, but was told by a Taoist that he could only become rich if he joined the army. So he went to join the army. Not to mention, he has really found a path that suits him. When he goes to the battlefield to kill the enemy, he is very brave and a little clever. So I was promoted along the way, and my promotion was very fast. He was adopted as an adopted son by Lu Lingzi, the eunuch beside the late emperor, and he started his cheating career from then on. Being loyal to Dashuo is called loyalty. Wu Quanzhong usurped the throne. Could he recognize Wu Quanzhong as his master? He simply took his troops and went directly to Sichuan and became the emperor himself. And he was not the first person to proclaim himself emperor under Wu Quanzhong's eyes. The first person to proclaim himself emperor was Painian's former Shangguan Yangbai. Yangbai was originally just the governor of Luzhu, but later he took over the entire territory of Jiangxi. When he asked Painian for food, he was scolded by people around him and he and Painian got into trouble. Others sent troops to besiege Renzhou, but he stood by and watched, wanting to watch Painian bow his head. Unexpectedly, Ma Mingwen took advantage. He also asked Wu Quanzhong to transfer his land in several Jiangxi states to Ma Mingwen. It's simply unbearable. As soon as Wu Quanzhong ascended the throne, he made Ma Gu from Hunan on his left the king of Chu, Huang Shenzi from Fujian on his right was made the king of Fujian, and Ma Mingwen, who had cut a few pieces of flesh from him, was made the king of Yu. No. Can this be tolerated? Must not. So as soon as Wu Quanzhong ascended the throne, Yang Bai also led his troops and captured parts of the south of the Huihe River, eastern Hubei, and Anhui. He also ascended the throne and became emperor, and the country was named Wu. At this point, since Wu Quanzhong ascended the throne, the entire Dashuo territory gradually fell apart in Wu Quanzong's hands. All kinds of news were put on Ma Mingwen's desk. It gave him a splitting headache. Ma Mingwen didn't have much ambition. He just felt resentful and unwilling to overthrow the inactive court. When Wu Quanzhong appointed him as Zhenyi's Jidushi, he was still confused for a long time. And how long ago did he become the king of Yu? Could it be that God saw that his life was too miserable in the first half of his life, and all the good things in the second half of his life were thrown at him at once? I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse. Ma Mingwen hurriedly summoned several military advisors and officials at all levels, and a group of subordinates came to Reiashu to discuss matters. His subordinates, who were slow to receive the news, were delighted when they heard that Ma Mingwen was named King of Yu by the Central Plains Court. Congratulations to the King of Yu, congratulations to the King of Yu. This is a good thing. Yes, yes, it's a great thing. Although everyone looked down upon Wu Quanzong's usurpation of the throne, he turned them into officials who had subjugated their country, leaving them at a loss as to what to do. But Wu Quanzhong got the abdication edict from the last emperor of the Shuo dynasty, held the jade seal in his hand, and sat on the throne of the imperial capital again. Then, Wu Quanzhong now represents the Central Plains Court. Even if everyone disdains him, the jade seal on the edict is true. Now that the whole country is in chaos, having a serious name can also scare Xiao Xiao, who dares to covet the territory in Ma Mingwen's hands. And Shangguan has great power, and if you follow his men, life will naturally be much easier. King Yu, this is a good opportunity, some of his subordinates began to make suggestions. I heard that two forces in the south have split the soil and become emperor. Now Ma Mingwen has 12 states in his hands, with a vast territory and a large number of people. Moreover, these state capitals are much richer than other places. If he wants to cause trouble, he has an advantage over others. As soon as Ma Mingwen stood up on his own, they all had the merit of following the dragon. They were promoted to official positions, and their glory and wealth were just around the corner. All the subordinates began to feel excited. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bajia 11U. Chapter 321. Regardless of whether it was for personal or public interest, Ma Mingwen and his subordinates all suggested that he learn from Shu and Wu and establish a Yu kingdom. But Ma Mingwen disagreed. First, he didn't have that ambition. Second, he was good at fighting and killing, but he couldn't handle general affairs and political affairs. This was his shortcoming. He knew it himself. It's not that he couldn't recruit talented people. Since ancient times, which emperor on the throne managed general affairs and the economy and his subordinates by himself? Didn't he have people to help him work? But having said that, if he learned from the last emperors of the Shuo dynasty and didn't care about anything, would he have to hand over the last pile of people and things to others? Besides, Ma Mingwen didn't want to worry about these things. It was really annoying. And once he split the land and established himself, countless eyes would be staring at him. Not only would he be stared at by the Central Plains Court, but also by various forces. It would be like being roasted in the fire, fighting and arguing every day. It was in dire straits. It was really boring. He didn't want to live like this. It is better to preserve strength, guard your own territory, and live your own life. Let them fight and kill as they please. Although the subordinates were a little disappointed, more people could understand. At this point, it is really not good to stand out, so it is better to develop yourself quietly. Moreover, the territory of the 12 states is not small. Thinking of it, the subordinates became happy again. Painian sat at the lower seat and breathed a sigh of relief quietly. When someone suggested that Ma Mingwen should be independent just now, he disagreed. But he didn't know what Ma Mingwen was thinking for a while, so he didn't speak. Now after hearing Ma Mingwen clearly say that he didn't want to be emperor, he breathed a sigh of relief. It is not a wise move to be emperor now. It is better to quietly develop and strengthen your own strength, be a fisherman first, and just watch. Painian said, I agree with what the king of you said. Now we still need to hide our strength. After taking over the 5 states, we still need to send people there to govern. It is important to stabilize the people's hearts. And the meal should be eaten bite by bite, and it should be steady. Ma Mingwen nodded after hearing this. That's right. The most important thing right now is to feed the people first. If the people can't eat enough, the people's hearts will be uneasy and everything will be in vain. That's right, that's right. Seeing that everyone agreed, Ma Mingwen looked at Painian again. He said, Qing's side has developed a set of measures to fertilize the fields, which are effective. This year's per acre yield has increased by 10% to 20% compared to last year. I heard that she has gathered the capable people from each village together to brainstorm and think about increasing production every day. You should discuss the 5 newly acquired states and the land with Cheng's. Painian nodded, okay. Some people who knew Suching's nodded repeatedly, and some who didn't know turned their heads to ask others. So, almost everyone knew that the king of Yu had adopted a goddaughter named Suching's. She has also been supplying food to the army in the past 2 years. This girl is well recognized. If there is no food in the army, where will the king of Yu come from? After the meeting, Ma Mingwen and Painian walked together. Painian asked him, is there still no news about Lu Bachan? Ma Mingwen looked solemn and shook his head, no, I sent several groups of people to look for him, but there was no news about him. I don't know if he is dead or alive. Painian looked up and sighed. How long can we keep it a secret? If something happens to Lu Bachan, how will she and her son survive? He was very worried. Ma Mingwen was silent. Then he said, I will send a few more troops to look for him. Even if Bachan has any accident, Qing'an can raise the child. Besides, I am here. You don't know, Ma Xian wrote to say that Xiaobao has a talent for martial arts, good bones, and a good memory. Ma Xian has already taught him personally. Oh, really? I think Xiaobao is not a simple child. We can't let the child be delayed in the mountains. Don't worry. I will find some famous teachers for him. But he is still young now, and Ma Xian can still teach him. In 2 years, when he is older, I will arrange for him. Lu Bachan, who was secretly searched by Ma Mingwen in several groups, was in an abandoned village at this time. At that time, Feng Xiang could not resist Wu Quanzong's army, and Kui Sheng vowed to defend the city. The city was alive, and the city was destroyed. Fighting with the army until the last moment. At the last moment, Lu Bachan was about to be unable to resist, so he selected a team and forcibly took Kui Sheng away from Feng Xiang. A team of several hundred people was chased and killed all the way, and finally split into several groups to escape. In the end, only Lu Bachan, Go Wa, and Kui Sheng were left. How tragic! Kui Sheng watched hundreds of elite soldiers die tragically to protect him. When he arrived at this small village, he was completely exhausted. In addition, he was seriously injured and was dying in a blink of an eye. Lu Bachan found a small pottery jar and boiled half a pot of porridge for Kui Sheng, without any salt or minced meat. After boiling, he blew it a little cool, poured it into a broken bowl, and brought it to Kui Sheng. Kui Sheng was lying on a broken wooden board at this time, looking dilapidated and about to collapse. There was no good medicine to treat his injuries. "Marshal, the porridge is ready, let me feed you some." Lu Bachan endured the pain in his heart and shook him slightly. Seeing Kui Sheng open his eyes, Go Wa hurriedly helped him up from the other side and let him lean on his arms. Kui Sheng looked up at Lu Bachan, then looked up at Go Wa, and felt an endless sadness in his heart. He shook his head at Lu Bachan and said weakly, "No, leave it for you to eat. No matter how much you feed me, it will be useless. I know my time is up." When Lu Bachan heard this, his throat seemed to be pinched instantly. Wave after wave of powerlessness swept over him. Tears seemed to burst out immediately. He lowered his head, slowly and slowly. Finally he raised his head and said warmly, "With me here, there is no limit. Let's walk further south and we will reach the mountain where my wife and son are. It will be fine once we get there. My wife said that she led the mountain people to grow food in the mountains, and we can harvest twice a year. Then when we have filled our stomachs, we will recruit troops and horses to go to Chang'an and kill the traitor." Kui Sheng twitched the corner of his mouth. "That's great. I also want to meet the lady you talk about every day. I want to see who she is and who makes you worry about her every day." I can. My wife is a nice person and has the ability to raise my son well. When we get to the mountains, my wife will definitely take care of you. I'm not the stove lord, why did you sacrifice me?" Kui Sheng wanted to laugh, but the wounds on his body were affected, and his face wrinkled again. "Be careful," Lu Bachan hurriedly supported him with one hand. He coaxed him again, "Of course I have to offer you up. I was just a soldier back then. If the marshal hadn't taken a fancy to me and took me under his account, I wouldn't be where I am today. Maybe I would have been killed long ago." The battlefield. Lu Bachan coaxed him and talked about the past, trying to inspire Kui Sheng's courage to live. "I'm afraid that he will be discouraged and unable to survive." "That's because you have the ability." Kui Sheng remembered the past, a smile appeared on his face, and he spoke every word with difficulty. No matter how capable I am, I can't do it without the marshal. Otherwise, I still don't know where I am now." Lu Bachan felt extremely uncomfortable when he saw that he was having difficulty even speaking. But he was afraid that Kui Sheng would feel uncomfortable, so he kept a smile on his face. Kui Sheng was coaxed by him, ate less than half a bowl of porridge, and closed his eyes again. Seeing that he was asleep, Lu Bachan put his hand under his nose. "Madam, she has a tender heart." Author, Bajia 11U. Chapter 322. Although it was weak, Kui Sheng still had breath. "Read." Lu Bachan breathed a sigh of relief and looked at him blankly. The marshal in front of him seemed to have had his soul drained away, and his whole person was filled with a deathly aura. The marshal who was in charge of the school field with firm command, commanded thousands of troops to be invincible, and led the army to fight countless victories. Whatever good things he got, he let his subordinates divide them first, and then he picked the remaining marshals. At this time, there was no sound. In Lu Bachan's eyes, this is his infinitely respected elder, his superior officer, and his boss, Lu Bachan. In the past, I always scolded him, disliked him, and said that what he did was not good enough. But now, he was like this, lying on a broken wooden board without even a blanket. Lu Bachan bit his lower lip tightly, trying to hold back his tears. He turned around and left. Guwa saw him walking out and followed him silently. "Guwa, do you think we can't go south?" Lu Bachan didn't even raise his head, looking at the void in front of him with infinite sadness in his heart. "Yes, it must be possible. My sister-in-law and my eldest nephew are still waiting for us at home." Guwa nodded firmly. The general used to brag to me, saying how wonderful my sister-in-law is, how cute my eldest nephew is, and how my sister-in-law brought a whole mountain of people to eat, so there must be enough food for the three of us. When I get to the mountain, I eat lying down every day. I'm still waiting for my sister-in-law to introduce me to my wife. Lu Bachan raised his eyebrows after hearing this. If we can go to the south and return to my wife, I will definitely ask her to find a good wife for you. Just look for a young and beautiful woman. There is a long list. You can choose. We won't accept anyone who is not satisfied. That's it. If I'm not satisfied, I'll tell my sister-in-law and ask her to look for it again. Lu Bachan smiled and fell silent again. Seeing his silence, Guo felt uncomfortable. General, how about I dress up as a woman and try again in the town we passed before? I went to the medical center secretly. I sold myself to him and asked him to give me some medicine on credit. No, I asked him to follow me quietly and help us look at the marshal's injuries. The marshal will definitely be cured after he gets treatment. Lu Bachan let out a long sigh. He was chased and killed all the way while escaping, and all the people he brought out died. The horses were also sold by them in exchange for food. All the valuable things he had on him were sold. I was being treated for injuries in that town before, and I was chased to death. He almost escaped from the pursuers. The three of them fled to this abandoned village and were at the end of their rope. The last half a handful of rice today was cooked and given to the marshal. If there was an emergency, he wouldn't be able to let the marshal have a full meal before leaving. Tears immediately welled up in Lu Bachan's eyes. He raised his head and tried to hold it back again and again. But in the end I couldn't hold it in anymore. A pair of tiger eyes suddenly rolled down 2 lines of tears. When Guo saw it, he couldn't help but shed tears. He didn't dare to cry, so he covered his mouth and found a corner to squat and cry silently. After a long while, Lu Bachan wiped it on his face. He said to Go Wa, you keep an eye on the marshal here. I'll go to the town ahead to see if I can think of something. I have to find some medicine for the marshal. Guo hurriedly wiped his tears and stood up. He stood up in such a hurry that he almost fell down. Stomp my feet. Hey, Boots. General, look. Seeing Lu Bachan looking towards him, Guo raised his feet happily. He said to Lu Bachan, General, these are military boots. The marshal gave them to me specially. They are made of very good leather and are waterproof. How much do you think you can sell them for? Someone should buy them, right? After hearing this, Lu Bachan looked at his feet again. His boots were also good, better than Guo's. So he sat down on the ground and was about to take off his shoes when something flashed past him. What is it then? Correct. It's his dirty clothes. His wife made him obscene clothes out of silk. Lu Bachan immediately got up from the ground and quickly pulled his clothes with both hands. General, these clothes are not as valuable as the boots. I have been chased all the way, and I haven't even changed or washed my clothes. My clothes are all scratched and torn. Who can I sell them to? Lu Bachan ignored him and took off 2 outer garments before taking off his yellowed garment. Guzi, come here, he was so excited that he forgot about it. As Lu Bachan spoke, he held the dirty clothes in his hands and started touching them everywhere. When he finally touched a small bump, which was inconspicuous but different from other places, he breathed a sigh of relief. We have money, Lu Bachan said excitedly to Guo. Before Go Wa could react, Lu Bachan pulled hard with both hands and took apart the entire obscene garment. Golden beans. Golden leaves? Guo saw the things scattered on the floor, and his eyes widened in shock. Quick, come and count for me. My wife said she sewed 200 taels for me. 200 taels of gold. No 200 taels of silver. I only had a dozen taels of silver at that time, and I left them all to my wife. These 200 taels were earned by my wife when she left, and they were given to me for personal use. Lu Bachan said excitedly, with infinite emotion in his heart. He didn't want it at the beginning. For almost 5 years, he had forgotten about it. Unexpectedly, when he was at the end of his rope, he remembered the money his wife had hidden for him. It is indeed a life-saving silver. Lady General, there are really 200 taels. Of course, my wife can still lie to me. Lu Bachan was very excited. He gathered 200 taels of gold and silver beans into a pile, wrapped them in rags, put them on his body, and put on his outer clothes. Guzi, please take good care of the marshal. I'll go to the town ahead. I'll find a doctor for the marshal, buy some medicine, and bring you some food and drink. Guwa nodded, okay. General, you have to avoid people and don't get caught. He was very worried. They originally thought that there was no way out, but unexpectedly, his sister-in-law in the south gave them hope again. Guwa's heart came to life again. Lu Bachan agreed and hurried back into the house. He put his fingers under Kui Sheng's nose. When he saw that he was still breathing, he quickly left the house. Dodging and dodging all the way towards the town ahead. Feng Xiang's army fled with 10,000 elite soldiers, and the prince and grandson also disappeared. The city was destroyed, and the bodies of the two supreme commanders were not found, so they must have fled. When the news was reported to Wu Quanzhong couldn't sit still. He is a person who can't get rid of the sand in his eyes. When a banquet was held to entertain a group of colleagues, Mukong drunkenly said, "A mere surrender general is not worthy of being on an equal footing with me." He chased Mukong's inn and set fire to it overnight, hoping to kill Mukong. So at the critical moment when he ascended the throne and became emperor, when the throne was not stable, he could let Kui Sheng and Lu Bachan escape with 10,000 elite troops? And then let them come back again? This is impossible. So on the way to the south, there were layers of checkpoints. The officers and soldiers took the portraits of Kui Sheng and Lu Bachan and looked for them everywhere. Previously, Lu Bachan took Kui Sheng to seek medical treatment in a town and was almost caught. This time, Lu Bachan was careful. He pretended to be a down-and-out common man and evaded all the way to the town. Even if he doesn't dress up, he is no different from a down-and-out, hungry, and cold commoner. He hadn't eaten enough for several days, and his eye sockets were sunken. He grabbed 2 more handfuls on his head. At this time, he looked like a beggar begging for food. Lu Bachan dodged all the way to the town entrance. He saw a roadblock set up at the town entrance, and several officers and soldiers were holding 2 small statues to check the people entering and exiting. Lu Bachan looked at it from a distance and saw that it was the portrait of him and Kui Sheng. Although it doesn't look like the painting, it still has some charm. Lu Bachan gritted his teeth with hatred. His eyes were hard. Wu Quanzhong, he must kill him. But he quickly averted his eyes. He couldn't look back. He had to go to town this time. The marshal was still waiting for the medicine to save his life. Lu Bachan walked towards several officers and soldiers.